To those who didn't know them, Ryan Poston and Shayna Hubers seemed like a couple worthy of envy. He was a handsome 29-year-old Cincinnati attorney with a winning smile, a love of chess, and a career he enjoyed. She was a good-looking striver, only 21 years old, and already pursuing a graduate degree. Their courtship began when he added her on Facebook after stumbling across her striking spring break pictures. Soon they were looking good together. But the facade collapsed some 18 months later, on October 12, 2012, when Hubers shot and killed Poston at his apartment in the tiny Cincinnati suburb of Highland Heights, Kentucky. "I'm not a murderer," Hubers told 911 operators, her voice overwhelmed with emotion in a recording that airs on an episode of AE's Killer Cases. "I just killed him in self-defense." Hubers told 911 that the incident with Poston had been the violent climax to an episode of domestic abuse. But as Hubers continued to recall the events to the operator, she began incriminating herself. When police found his body, Poston had been shot 6 times. Pretty much every side of his body he'd been shot at, Highland Heights Police Chief Bill Birkenhauer said, and at the murder scene, there were few indications of a domestic disturbance. The living room was orderly, and there was no evidence on Hubers' body to suggest a physical assault. Hubers was brought to a police station in Highland Heights, where she was interrogated by police officer Dave Fornash. After Hubers initially indicated that she wanted an attorney, she began to share her story without legal representation. During her interrogation, she appeared unremorseful. She made morbid jokes about the murder, noting that Poston had wanted a nose job. "I shot him right here," she said, pointing at her nose. "I gave him his nose job." When police left the interrogation room, Hubers' behavior got stranger. She danced around the interview room, pirouetting, singing. Michelle Snodgrass, lead prosecutor of Hubers' case, told Killer Cases that while she recognizes that people behave abnormally when in shock, she'd never heard that somebody pirouettes when they're in shock, that someone sings when they're in shock, that someone snaps their fingers and says, "I did it." When they're in shock, Hubers went to trial in April 2015. Prosecutors claimed that the woman was obsessed with Poston, sometimes sending him 50 to 100 texts a day and stalking him at home and at work. They say she was motivated by Poston's stated desire to end their tumultuous, on-again, off-again relationship, with the murderous violence ultimately triggered by his landing a date with Miss Ohio, 2012 Audrey Bolt. Hubers hired a different defense attorney, David Eldridge,